A little bit of history before I bring the other folks up. Arleno Funderburk, who you'll meet in just a moment, was a longtime Baptist student. Well, back when it was BSU, anybody remember that? That moved into Baptist Student Ministries, but he was a minister on the college campus in Levelland, Texas at South Plains College for over 40 years. And when I got to Levelland and First Baptist Church Levelland, I thought, we have this opportunity to have this ministry with college students. And then I met Arleno and I thought, how can he relate to college students? He's so much older than they are. But then I got to know him and watch him, and I've never seen anyone with a greater heart for students than Arleno. But then I learned something more about him. Not only did he minister to those students, every May he took a group of students for many, many years into Juarez to do ministry with churches. And in the course of that process, I got to know him, and I went and did construction with those students in Juarez. And we developed a friendship and a partnership and a brotherhood. And in 2006, he began, I won't go into the whole story, but he was made aware of some health issues with pastors in Juarez because they never went to the doctor. They didn't have insurance. They didn't have the money to go. And so many of them had diabetes or heart conditions and didn't even know it. And when he found out about that, he began to get some doctors involved and raise some money to have some exams. And that then turned into, with all the pastors and their wives coming for these exams, they're sitting around waiting for their turn to see the doctor. And he thought, well, what a great opportunity to have some Bible training for them. And that grew into this, basically a retreat that became an overnight type of thing. And that started in 2006. About 2009, I began to go with him and participate some. And in 2014 or so, he was introduced to Raquel. 11. Oh, lo siento. I'm sorry. 2011, and Raquel began to come and be a part of that. Raquel is the head, as you see in the bulletin, of the Spanish publishing house. It's basically Lifeway in Spanish. More or less. And so she does that. She is from Chile. She is well known all over the world. We are very, very privileged and blessed to have her. And then in 2015 or so, Zori Celis became part of the team. And what has transpired through this time is our event in Juarez is really for pastors and their wives, not their children, which was a big hurdle on the front end if you know anything about Mexican culture, Hispanic culture, and family. But once they came once without their kids, they said, we never want to bring our kids. And so we have been offering this retreat. Now, we had to take a break during COVID, of course, but we've been offering this retreat in Juarez since 2006 in some form or another. And now it's grown into a two-night event. They come in on Thursday. We have a session and a meal, and they stay through Saturday at lunch, and then we dismiss. And we just have opportunity to minister to them in really two main areas. In the area of marriage enrichment, which is Zori's specialty, and then in spiritual enrichment, which is something I strive for. And so those are our two main primary focus as we work with these pastors and their wives. But really what we do is we build in time for them to just rest. One of the things that has been a conviction for me for many years is who pastors the pastor. In 2021, Catapult did a survey of 3,000 plus pastors in America. And during the first part of the pandemic, 57% of pastors actively sought to get out of the ministry. And I'm not up here to whine because God called me here and I have the most wonderful church to serve alongside of anyone I know. And so don't hear me complaining, but on my heart I knew pastors struggle because who do pastors turn to, right? I mean, the reality, the practicality of it is when our families struggle, then our pastors are here to minister to you, but who do the pastors go to? And so knowing that these pastors and their wives in Mexico had, with the violence that began to come about in 2006, 2007, along in there, they felt abandoned. And so Arleno stepped into that gap. And it's been a privilege for me to work alongside him for all these years. And so now I'm going to invite them up, now that you know a little history about this ministry. And in 2017, we became our own nonprofit called the Strengthening Project, or in Spanish, Proyecto Fortaleza, if you already heard, and it's on the bulletin. But if you want to come on up, we're just going to kind of have an informal, I've had them think about some questions that I want to ask, and they're going to come and probably surprise me, but nonetheless. And as they're being seated, let me also say, before I forget or just move on, I'm so thankful and blessed to, it's musical chairs. I'm so thankful and blessed, go ahead and have a seat, to serve with you. Our church has been so generous, not only with some mission funds that go into this ministry, but also generous with my time. I get to go and be a part of this ministry, and this was something I was doing before I came here, so we made it clear on the front end. But I'm so thankful for you and your prayers and your willingness to allow me to participate in this and follow God's calling in this way on my life. And so thank you for your understanding and for your partnership in this. As I mentioned earlier, well, I'll tell that story in a minute. Let's get started. Sorry. Y'all know me, I'm a preacher, I'll talk forever. So Arleno is now, you see there in the bulletin, he is the pastor of, or minister of pastoral care at First Christian Church in Lubbock. And Zorcelis is a counselor, and she has many hats. She is a counselor by day, minister in her church by weekend, and a professor at Liberty University in the middle of all of that. She's already taught a class this morning, by the way. And so Zori is here, and then Raquel, as I said, she is from Chile. Zorcelis is from Puerto Rico, and Raquel is from Chile, and has some family in El Paso and some in Kentucky, but we're just privileged to have them here. So, the questions that I mentioned to you last night, throw those out. I'm going to do something different. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, Arleno, let's start with you. Why is this ministry important to you?
It's important because it first came to me as a command. The Lord said, I want us to do this. And it's so important, I think, to say yes when the Lord leads, because there is always a blessing with the command, the blessing of obedience. When I receive the command, I've received the blessing. It is a blessing to me and through me and through our team to many, many people that it empowers and blesses and encourages. And that's why this ministry is so important to me.
To me, is God's calling in my life was to be a counselor. And he changed my careers to become a counselor. And when I'm in my counseling room, couples come to me as a last resort. And I always say, I wish you would have come earlier to prevent these crises from happening. And I began to see some pastoral marriages struggling, and sometimes even in a relationship that was ruptured. So when this ministry came and God allowed the door to be open for me to minister to them, is seeing the opportunity to prevent a crisis, seeing the opportunity to strengthen those marriages so that they can better serve their churches and the marriages in their congregations. So to me, is seeing God's calling every time I'm able to work with these couples. And is just adding the part that God provided in my calling to serve his pastors, his servants, protecting their marriages as they also protect their congregations. So it's important for me to, and it's a blessing for me to be able to be a part of God's work in these pastoral marriages.
For me, as Brian said, I'm from Chile. In my past life, before I came to the United States, when I graduated from university, I'm a lawyer by profession, and as soon as I graduated from the university, I met this handsome man at church who was a pastor and who was single. And by the grace of God, I married him. And then I
got to
was
know
not
him
a
first,
lawyer
right?
anymore.
You got to know him first, right?
Not enough. That's what I believe in Strength and Project. So I became a pastor's wife. And for 19 years, I was a pastor's wife, had the ministry of the pastor's wife, which in many moments of my life, it felt not understood. Nobody cared about me or my husband. They put a lot of pressure on us. We enjoyed what we were doing, but it was difficult, very difficult. Seminary in Dallas or Fort Worth, and going back to Chile, my husband was the president of the seminary and pastoring a large church. So it was a very difficult life. Then the Lord asked him, and he went to heaven in the year 2000, 22 years ago. And my life changed again. And I became the president of the Chilean Baptist Convention. I was what here is called the general director of the Baptist Convention there. And then I was very active in the Baptist World Alliance. And during all that time, I worked with pastors and their wives, but mainly with pastors, and realized how hard their life was because of my own experience and because of what I was sharing with people all over the world about how they felt in ministry. And all the time I was thinking, we should be able to do something. I try to have meetings with, every time that I go to a congress or an activity, I try to meet with the pastors' wives and get together with them and try to pamper them a little bit, but I always felt that there was something else that could be done. So that's why I participate with this ministry, even though I'm like the four of us, we are very busy in our regular lives, but we set aside time to participate with this because we feel the importance that to have a healthy pastor, a healthy pastoral family, it will become a healthy church too. So it's a consequence of a healthy pastor family is a healthy church. So that's why it's so important for us.
That leads into what, as I thought about this same question, that's one of the things that I think it's not 100%, because I do know some healthy churches with some not as healthy pastors, but that's a rarity. Typically, as the pastor's health goes, so goes the health of the church. And so this ministry is important to me because it's not just that we get to minister to and pour into the lives of the pastors that we serve, but also we know that it affects so many other people that those pastors in turn minister to. And so it's an extremely important ministry, I think. And the reason what is really has been our focus is most pastors in Mexico don't have the same access to the kinds of things that we offer. In fact, the reason God has led us to this particular niche is that no one else, no other organization is dealing, as far as we know, is dealing with these type of issues with pastors. And so for us, particularly in Juarez, it has been such a need And as we have, and we'll talk a little bit more about this momentarily, but as we have continued to do this in Juarez for so long, we've realized that the need is not just there. The need is in many places. And so we're very blessed to do this. But I think it's extremely important for this ministry to truly keep that heart and that desire to be there for pastors when others can't be and don't even know really to be. Next question that I wanted to hear from each of you is what is one of the most special moments that you can think of in our time together with the pastors, or maybe even just with our team, but more importantly, I think with just seeing how God uses this. What is a special memory for you?
Well, there have been many over the years. But let me give you just the most recent from our retreat yesterday. At the conclusion, one of the ladies, one of the pastor's wives, came to me and said, "Brother, you have brought the help that we have needed for a long, long time. You were the first to come. We've needed what you have offered for a very long time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, please come back."
For me, I have to say several moments that are defined in one moment. For example, the moment when I'm teaching about principles to strengthen our marriage, and I see those eyes opening like, "You understand." Or when they look at each other and it's like, "That's me and you." Or after I finish and they come and say, "We needed this so much. We have not been able to talk about this with anyone. You know, that's exactly what is happening to us." And so to me, it's an affirmation from the Lord telling us we're doing what we need to do because they need it. And even yesterday, every retreat is different and it's special. I'm teaching, one of the ladies began to cry. And at the end, I just sat with her aside. And in a long story short, she said, "In 37 years, I have never been able to talk about this situation with anyone other than the Lord." So we were able to talk about the situation and kind of process it and provide some guidance. But that was her first time in 37 years. Can you imagine the struggle, the pain, the hurt of dealing with that specific situation in her marriage for 37 years and not be able to process it? So those moments, I know this church is going through the emphasis of 1 million moments, right? And so those moments are significant because God uses those moments for his work and for him to do what he needs to do in that couple, in our case, or in that person. And then with our team, I really think God brought this team together. I did it as a favor to my friend. She said, "Oh, I need you to come with me." And because I love her, I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it for you, but only this time." And it's been 8 years. So it has been God using this team every moment for his work.
If I can define a moment, I think it will be, I still remember where I was sitting in my office and the day Arleno called me in 2011, it was in the month of May. And he said to me, "I don't know you, but I have heard that you could give conferences. Could you go help me in Juarez?" And I immediately said yes, because I was so interested on helping pastors and their wives. And then when I mentioned to the people that I live with or work with in El Paso, everybody was telling me that I was crazy. How can I go to Juarez? Because at that time, the violence product of the narco traffic, it was very, very large. So, but I never thought about that. I just decided to go and let the Lord do the protection. And he did, of course. And after that, uh, every retreat is a special moment. Conversations, sharing bread, doing special activities. It's like I was saying on Friday when we were doing a group dynamic with them, how pastors are the ones who always lead the meetings and do the group dynamics with everybody, but here they have to participate. And so it was interesting. So really, to help them recognize there is people who care for them, that the Lord has provided for them somebody who cares, who provides a time of fellowship for them, to relax, to have a night or 2 nights in a hotel and enjoy it. Maybe for us here in the United States, I have lived long enough here to realize that it's not as big to go to a hotel and spend the night there. But when you live in Latin America, you don't go to a hotel as easy as we do here. You go in very special occasions. You usually go, if you're gonna have a retreat, you will go and sleep in the same church or in somebody's home, but not in a hotel. So for us to provide the money to pay everything, for them to be there, that's very special. And to have a program and everything prepared for them is very special. For us here in the United States, we have access to these things. Not only pastors, but members of the church, and we have occasions, we have access to workshops and things like that. But in Latin America, it's not the same. So for us to be able to provide those things through your support, your prayers, your offerings, and everything, makes a difference in the life of them.
That's something I didn't share initially, but this does not cost the couple anything. They come in, as I mentioned earlier, on Thursdays, and I will say this, we have asked for a deposit over the last several years because we need them when they tell us they're coming to actually come. But $25 is all we ask, and actually it's less than that, I think, this year in Juarez. But anyway, but then they get to stay 2 nights. We feed them. We have all of these things for them. What's that? And we have a banquet. See? A romantic banquet. We had a mariachi one time. That did not go as well. That's a whole other story. But it doesn't cost them anything. So we fundraise throughout the year. And just for instance, even in Juarez, in October, our retreat cost $16,000 to provide for 44 couples to come for a retreat. And it cost them, actually this year, nothing, because we gave them their deposit back when they arrived. And so that comes from generosity of our convention, of our churches, of some of you in this room, and our church. And so it is a gift. It is a huge gift. I want to share just a couple of moments for me that I think are memorable. I think for me, probably where the memories come and the moments come, the special moments come, are in the relationships, particularly in Juarez, because we just finished a retreat this past weekend, or yesterday, in McAllen for pastors along the border. But we've only done that twice. And so in Juarez, this is really like a family reunion. A lot of these pastors, this year I think we had 6 or 8 couples that had never been. All of the rest of those 44 couples have come multiple times. And so we see these same couples over and over, and they are so grateful. And the love is so expressed and real. And so, in fact, that's where I started to tell this story earlier. You know, I don't normally dress like this on Sunday morning. But this particular shirt was given to me as a gift by a couple, Alejandro and Hilda Samniego. And they've been coming to this retreat in Juarez for many, many years. And several years ago, their son was killed in the midst of the violence. And yet they still come, they still continue to pastor. And they just show their gratitude and their love. And that, to me, are the special memories, the special moments. And probably one that really stands out the most to me is there's a couple that actually come in from Casas Grande, which is about an hour away from Juarez, and they always bring something, and it's very unique as a gift. And so several years ago, they gave me, and I think each of us, a full life-size papier-mâché chicken. Now, a year or so later, I tell the story, and these folks are like, well, I left mine at the hotel. I don't know what to do with that. You know what I did? I walked onto Southwest Airlines with that thing under my arm because I knew if I put it in my luggage, it was not going to survive the trip. So I had a lot of looks that day. And if you want to see that chicken, it's in my study. So you can see it now. I have it. But those are the kind of things, the relationships, I think, are so important. Last question, and we'll wrap up quickly, is what would you like to see for the future for this ministry? Just one real quick something, real quick.
I think I'd like to see it continue to grow and maybe become more inclusive. Right now, most of the pastors and wives are Baptist, and I'm so thankful. But I would love to see us be able to include other pastors and wives as well.
I would love to see more pastors and wives come. Something that I hear every time is how, for many of them, this is the only vacation they have, one night or 2 nights. For many of them, it's like they're so thankful. Thank you, we needed this. We look forward to this retreat because this is all the nurturing we have as a couple. Or thank you because you're the only counselor we've ever seen. Or thank you because we need this so that we can go back and serve our churches. And they, even yesterday, they said, oh, I know so many other pastors and wives that could benefit from these. So I would love to see other pastors and wives come.
I know you may not like what I want, but I would like to have more sites to go.
More what?
More places to go.
Oh, see.
To have more places to go, that we could go to other places in Mexico, in Latin America, or even here with Hispanic pastors.
I like that.
I would love to go to other places and to being able to have more retreats.
Yeah, very good. No, I think that's the same for me. I would like to see us expand. Many of you may know this. After Hurricane Harvey in 2017, we offered something similar for pastors and their wives here locally who were struggling with the recovery. Some of them went 3 or 4 months without a single day off. And so having an opportunity, we had it at the Omni. And so just being able to expand, I think, include others, but also expand into other areas and have more pastors come. And I think that's important. So I want to close with this verse. I had it turned and then I just bumped my Bible. And I just preached from this not long ago. But I think it's so important for us, particularly in this ministry, but each of us, to look for those opportunities to minister to others, to look for a need. Doesn't necessarily need to be in the church. Arleno saw a need, and God used him to begin this ministry to meet that need. And so each of us live in different worlds, all here together in Corpus Christi, but our lives are very different. And God puts people in our paths that we can minister to. We just need to be paying attention to see it. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24 says, let us consider, think about, be in tune with, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. We need to really think about how we can encourage one another, how we can minister to one another. God has a calling on each of our lives. Now, we get to do this together in this particular ministry, and as Zori said, each of us are or actually Raquel said, each of us are very busy in our different lives and ministries, but this is one area that we get to serve together. But there are areas within our church and within our community that each of us can look for needs and step into those needs and be used by God to encourage others, to spur one another on to love and good deeds. And so I want to encourage us to do that and to look for those opportunities and then to have the courage to actually do something about it. It doesn't do any good to see the opportunity and say, well, somebody else will do that, right? I don't know if you've ever had CPR training, but the last time I had CPR training, one of the first things they said was you walk up and you see a situation and you look at someone and you say, go call 911, or you call 911. If you just say, somebody call 911, everybody's going to look at each other going, well, you going to do it? No, you're going to do it? You don't have time to make that decision, and so you have to specify and say, you. So see what I'm saying is we may see a need, but if we don't do anything about it and assume someone else is going to do something about it, it may never be addressed. And so have the courage to step into those when God opens the door for you to do that. I want to pray to close us, and then I'm going to have a couple of announcements, so don't run off just yet. But before I pray, I want to again say thank you. No one on our team takes any money for this. We raise money, and all of the money that is raised pays for the expense of offering a retreat. And so just know that these folks are here, away from their homes, away from their new husband. And they do this because God has called them to this. They don't do this for the money. Guillermo and Suhaila, thank you. They're away from their boys and their church today that they normally serve to be here with us. And so thank you for the blessing that you are for being here. And again, thank you, church family, for your participation and for your generosity and for your encouragement in this ministry. It is so important. And it's wonderful that our church has this as part of its heart as well. So let's pray, and then I'll announce a couple things and we'll be dismissed. Father, I thank you for this time to get a glimpse of how you work and what you're doing in this particular ministry. It is such a blessing for me to be part of this team, to be able to serve alongside of Raquel and Zorceles and Arleno and Guillermo and Suhaila and do this together. And to be able to see firsthand. So often we don't see the results of your working through us. But in this particular ministry, many of the results we see almost immediately in the response that we get from the pastors and their spouses. And so, Lord, we thank you for the privilege of your calling on our lives. And I thank you for our church that has a heart for missions, has a heart for serving. Thank you that you have allowed me to be here to serve alongside these wonderful folks. Use us as we move forward to look for opportunities, moments, to spur one another on to love and good deeds, to encourage one another to stay in the fight, to encourage one another to have the courage to step into those needs when we see them. Use us as a church to impact your kingdom here for your glory and for your honor. And in your name, I pray.